Hey y'all, welcome to Horrible Gaming. My name is Nora, and on today's video we are going to be talking about the new cozy farm simulator game called Fae Farm. Is it as good as everybody says? Is the hype worth it? In today's video we are going to be talking about this and breaking it all down. So with all this being said, I'm going to have a very honest review today of everything that I hate about the game and everything I love about it. I also want to mention that I was gifted the game by Phoenix Labs and Keymailer, so thank you so much for letting me try out this new game and allowing me to also talk about it on my channel. To start off today's review, we are going to be jumping right into the story of Fae Farm. Now, I do want to disclaim, I am not finished with the storyline whatsoever. I am about 15 hours into my gameplay, so I will not be breaking down the storyline at all in today's video. Instead, I will be talking about what you can expect with the storyline and if it's engaging enough. Fae Farm story starts off with our character discovering a message in a bottle, and in that bottle we discover a faraway magical land needs our help. Our character then decides to go venture out to the sea only to be swept away through a whirlpool and then finds themselves in a place called Azoria. So like most farm simulators, we take on the role as a farmer here in Azoria. While decorating our farm and of course getting to know the locals, our job is to also discover the mysteries that lie upon Azoria. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This already sounds like the typical farm simulator that we have been seeing for the past 2 years. Believe it or not, that was my thoughts. I was not actually excited to play this game whatsoever. I felt like we've just had so many farm sims and cozy life sims that I could not get into this game and enjoy it because it would feel like every other game that we have been seeing. While keeping all the traditional cozy farm simulator aspects, Fae Farm has actually really surprised me. So is the storyline good? So far during my gameplay, I would say yes, the storyline gets introduced to us pretty early. The story itself so far has been really well done and I just absolutely love it. Without getting into any spoilers, if you are somebody who goes into games wanting a decent story, I feel like Fae Farm has really delivered on that. Now, something I do want to let you know is the first couple of chapters of Fae Farm are very tutorial based. I feel like it was really slow at first to kind of get introduced to the storyline. However, the tutorial did not really feel like I was being taught how to play the game because it was just so enjoyable and really fun. And I feel like if you have a decent tutorial that is really engaging, you can look past that. But something that really took me by surprise with Fae Farm is the fact that I can go into this game at my own pace. With Fae Farm, you have the option of not immediately doing the storyline. If you're like me, I really enjoy exploring the gameplay and decorating and just taking my time with games in general. Fae Farm has allowed me to choose my own path with the gameplay. I do not have to immediately do the storyline. I could just decorate and design and gather money without feeling pressure to have to do the storyline immediately. Moving on, the next thing I want to talk about on today's review of Fae Farm is the crafting and also the decorating aspects of the game. At first, when I was introduced crafting in the game, I was completely lost on where the heck that crafting station was. I didn't even know how to access it. I personally feel like the game could have done a better job by teaching us how to craft items. I was very lost on where to find the menu. It was just really difficult to figure out on my first live stream of Fae Farm. However, now that I've kind of messed with the mechanics a little bit and learned the controls, I actually really love the crafting system in this game. On my channel, I focus on a lot of building and decorating and just design in general. So having a decent crafting mechanic is very important to me. I absolutely love that I can skip just the animation part of crafting in this game. Like, we don't have to see it every single time we need to make an item, and that is such a huge win for me because other games do not have that. So if you are somebody who gets tired of seeing the same animation over and over, you love to decorate, you are absolutely gonna love the designing and crafting in this game. I honestly feel like it is my favorite designing mechanic in a game in a very long time. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the world of Azoria. I am so obsessed with it. I love that the world has a decent amount to explore without it being overwhelming. I tend to get very overwhelmed if a map is so big because I get lost. So another thing that add to this that I'm very excited about is the fact that the map has an actual tracker. I get so sidetracked and I never know where I need to go, and being able to track NPCs or certain locations in the world of Azoria is such a huge win for me. While on the topic of the world of Azoria, I can easily say that this is one of the most stunning games that I have played in a very long time. I just think the graphic style is really cute. It is so vibrant and happy, and I want to always feel like I'm cozy and enjoying the atmosphere of a game every time I play it. So I feel like having a nice art style is so important. So visually, I am really enjoying the game. I haven't had any lag issues. I haven't had any frame rate drops. I do play on the PC, so I'm not sure how this exactly is running on the Switch, but for me personally, it has been running and just looking so beautiful during my gameplay. Overall, the world of Azoria is so cutesy, it's so beautiful. I definitely feel like I have been inserted into this magical world. I also really love the balance between the more vibrant areas and the more gloomy areas of the map. There's such a perfect balance of different locations to adventure and just explore in general, and I feel like that is so important in a game like this. The next thing I want to talk about on today's review is the character customization of the game and also the NPCs that we get to meet and get to know better throughout our Azoria adventure. I feel like the customization in this game is absolutely incredible. I love that there are so many different options to really just make the character feel like myself or maybe my favorite fictional character. However, one of the negatives I do have about it is I wish there were more mouth options, there were more eye options. I do wish there were more options for those categories, but again, that is just not a game-breaking thing for me. I still think I made my character look pretty dang cute, and I love that there is such a widespread of color variations that I can choose to really just personalize my character even more. So in summary, I feel like the character customization is pretty dang awesome in this game, and I think a lot of people are gonna love that they can really make their character feel like themselves. Moving on to the NPCs, and I'm sure a lot of us have our own thoughts about them. I think they are absolutely adorable. However, I do feel like they're kind of bland at the same time too. This could be improved with future updates, but being that this is a full release game, and especially with there being romanceable options, I need my characters to have a lot of dialogue and I need them to have a lot of personality. However, a great thing I want to touch base on is I love how diverse the characters are, and I really love that there are so many of them. I really feel like Fae Farm did such an excellent job with representation, but also with all the different body types and skin tones. I feel like that is so important in a game. So in general, Fae Farm did an excellent job with representation, with the customization, and just the character design of everybody in the game. However, this is definitely where a lot of my negatives are. As mentioned earlier, I feel like if you have romanceable characters, they need to be relatable and you need to be able to have a lot of dialogue for them. How can I relate to a character that feels so bland and says the same thing over and over? Interacting with these characters just feel very surface level, not personal, and I feel like that needs to be improved. I know that this is not a huge feature for a lot of players when they come into games like this. A lot of people don't want to go into the romanceable option, but if you're going to give me the option to romance a character, give me plenty of dialogue and ways to get to know them better. Another thing that I feel like is minor, but it is a negative for me, is the lack of character portraits. I am coming from games like Stardew Valley that let me see the character clearly, how their design looks. I feel like it helps me choose who I want to romance a little bit better. Another thing that I was kind of shocked about too was the gifting mechanism in the game. Normally in a lot of games you can kind of just gift the villagers whatever you want, even if they don't like them. For me personally, I love trying to guess what the villager might like. It helps me get to know them better. It kind of makes the experience a little bit more personal. The next thing I want to talk about on NPCs is just how the market is handled in the game. I absolutely love that everybody is easy to find. When I'm playing games, for example, like Palia, I have to hunt down like certain NPCs to figure out where they are to be able to purchase things from them. So I do appreciate that in Fae Farm that they are all in one location. It makes it so much easier to purchase things from my farm and just get to know them better. So I think they did an excellent job with this. I know that in other games like Palia, for example, you can track said NPCs, but I do personally prefer them being in all one location when I need to buy things. However, with all these good things about the marketplace NPCs, I was shocked to find out that we couldn't romance them or give them presents. I mean, in other games, I am able to do this with store owners, so this kind of caught me off guard because there are several NPCs in the marketplace I wouldn't mind romancing. So the lack of that option kind of is disappointing. I know this all comes down to personal preference, but I was really shocked to find out that we couldn't do this with the marketplace NPCs. Honestly, I feel like a lot of my negatives with Fae Farm come into the NPC category, and also I cannot even express this enough, the multiplayer. The multiplayer function was very disappointing for me, and I know that this is very hit and miss with some people. I know some people probably love the multiplayer, but I am talking from my experience, and I absolutely hate it. I love that my friends can come over to my farm, we can adventure together, they can water my crops, they can pet my animals, they can farm resources with me, but there is a catch to this. Your friend does not get any of the recipes or any of the benefits of helping you on your farm for their own save. And I understand why they did this, because they want you to be able to progress your own farm, but at the same time, when you compare this to games like Animal Crossing or Palia, you can take home money that you've earned from visiting other people's farms or plots. So I'm just very shocked with the decision in multiplayer that they decided on this. I just think that it should have been improved. I personally feel like the multiplayer option is a complete waste if you are trying to help your friend progress their farm and you get no benefit out of it. With all that being said, you're just a really good friend for not getting any benefits. However, I feel like the multiplayer option is great if you both want to start a brand new farm together at the same level and you just decide whose map is going to be your main plot. At least with this option, it doesn't matter if you're taking home any resources or money, because you're just focusing on one farm anyways and you're progressing the game together. But with that being said, for me personally, this is just a huge negative, and I know a lot of people have opinions on this. Maybe they don't care about this feature, but for me, multiplayer is such a big deal in games, and these lack of features in it are just really disappointing. The next thing I want to talk about in today's review is actually several things. I want to talk about farming, I want to talk about the fishing, bug catching, and mining. With farming being the first thing that comes to mind, I guess we'll start there. I do want to address that the gaming mechanics in this game are pretty dang awesome. Like many other fellow creators, the biggest win for me with farming is the fact the game will auto-equip any tool that you need. So if I'm cutting a tree, my axe will automatically be equipped and I can cut down the tree. I just absolutely adore this feature because I feel like it allows me to get really cozy with the game and just not have to think about anything. I can just like shut my brain off and the game does it for me. Another thing that obviously makes farming so much easier in games like this is the rain waters my crops for me. It also fills up my watering can, which I think is a really cool feature. And of course, if you go swimming, your watering can will get refilled that way too. So I love that there's so many different ways that this can get refilled as it just instead of going to the well constantly. I actually really love this feature and it makes farming just way more enjoyable in the game. The next thing I want to talk about in basic gameplay is obviously the fishing, and the fishing in this game actually stressed me the heck out. The fishing in the game was actually quite confusing for me. It took me a second to figure out, but it does get easier. Now, if you compare the fishing to games like Stardew Valley, this is very easy, but I'm coming from games like Animal Crossing where the fishing was pretty straightforward. You didn't have to go through a mini game or struggle catching the fish. The fishing in that game was pretty easy. So when you compare fishing on Fae Farm, I do feel like it's a little bit more challenging than necessary. However, some people do love that challenge. I do think it's really realistic. You just have to fish very carefully and make sure your line doesn't turn red or you'll lose the fish and your line will break. So on to bug catching, which I actually enjoy so much more than fishing. It is so straightforward. It is so fun. I honestly find myself wanting to do bug catching more than farming or fishing in this game. I also enjoy that in this game, bug catching is more than just collecting. Your bug resources actually become a very important part of your farming. So I won't get into spoilers on this, but I just love that there is more to do with the bugs than in traditional farm sim games. So I think you'll find bug catching really enjoyable in this game, especially if you like to make use of the bugs themselves. On to the next thing, which is mining. I absolutely love mining in this game. Not only is the music so stinking good in the mines, but just the overall combat in there and just the way that the rooms work each time you progress in the mines. It's just really enjoyable gameplay. I think that if you are somebody coming from a game like Stardew Valley, you're going to be very happy with how how the mines work. Now let's say if you're an Animal Crossing player, obviously Animal Crossing has no combat unless you include netwhacking your friends on their island as combat, but the enemies in this game are not difficult. If you have no combat gameplay experience, the mines will not be overwhelming. I can say this easily because my 6-year-old daughter, who has never touched a combat-based game, was able to go through one of the mine levels with no issues. So I feel like it's really forgiving and it's also really enjoyable. However, I know that combat-based dungeons are not for everybody, so this may be a red flag for somebody because you will have to fight off some enemies each time you go into the mines. So in summarization, I feel like there was a lot of stuff I could have covered in today's video, but I feel like what I discussed was very important because these things actually help me determine if I'm gonna buy a game or not. This game was released as a full released game. It was not a beta, it was not a early access game, and with all this being said, I feel like a lot of us in the cozy gaming community are used to the cheaper games that we have been receiving lately. So obviously the price tag, which is even more in different parts of the world, can kind of be a little overwhelming. That's a lot of money to drop on a game that you're not gonna play. Fae Farm has been the most enjoyable gameplay experience I've had in a very long time. I would say that this is on my top gaming list on the same level as Disney Dreamlight Valley and Palia. So that's a big deal for me. I can see myself playing this game every single day if I wanted to. However, I do not think the price tag is accurate for what we have been given. I think the game still needs a lot of polishing and a lot of updates and fixes. It still feels unfinished in some areas. They did say that DLCs are coming, so maybe this will change my mind in the future, but I think that $40 would have been a fair price for this game. However, I do think that this game is really well done. I'm really enjoying it, and enjoying a game obviously is very important to me. If you're coming from games like Story of Seasons, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Stardew Valley, and Animal Crossing, or Palia for example, I feel like you're gonna really find a lot of the same aspects of that gameplay in Fae Farm, and you're really gonna enjoy it. Obviously, everybody's gameplay tastes are different, so I cannot say that this might be your favorite game in the whole wide world, but from my gameplay experience, Fae Farm is definitely my new favorite go-to cozy game, and I can't wait to keep doing content on it and streaming it. I hope that today's video helped answer some questions, or maybe even helped you decide if you want to buy the game or not. I feel like there is so much I could have covered in today's video, so of course, if there was something that I missed that you felt like was a very important thing to talk about on Fae Farm's gameplay and just your overall experience, let me know in the comments section. What are some things you would love to change or see improved in the game? Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you so very much for watching and have a horrible day. Also, as we end today's video, I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my channel members. Thank you so much for supporting me as a creator. Just your support in general means the absolute world to me.